Welcome back. As I say, near where they discovered the body of Richard III, the grave of Richard III, underneath a car park in Leicester, an extraordinary story in itself, they've now discovered an 800-year-old burial pit that is surrounded by mystery. As I say, it looks as if it's like dozens of bodies have been sort of stacked on top of each other, like downwards, vertically. This is the 12th century, so I think that means that's like a couple of hundred years before Richard III, but it begs the question, what the hell has been going on in Leicester? Let's talk to our favourite historian and author, Ashley Hern. Welcome back, Ashley.
Hi, Kevin. Good to speak to you again.
What the hell's going on here? Well, we can't really ally this to Richard III because, as I say, Richard III came a couple of hundred years afterwards. But what do you think has been going on? Because, first of all, dozens of bodies not apparently injured or in any way, and yet in this pit that's kind of vertical, one by one they go downwards. So what do you think was going on here?
Oh, so one of these wonderful mysteries where the safest answer is to say, I don't know, and hope we will get more information.
Thanks very much, Ashley. Nice to
You're quite right. I mean, this is the early 12th century, the information that we have, which comes from the carbon dating of the bones. So we're looking 385 years or so before Richard III. The remarkable sort of statistic is the numbers of dead. This is 123 people. I mean, Leicester at the time is about sort of a city where, well, Doomsday Book tells us it's about 350 houses.
Right.
So you're looking at quite a considerable section of the population being buried, as you said, in one go. So this, and it seems to be organised. It's not like during the Black Death, 200 years or so, 250 years later, in the mid-14th century, you have lots of these big pits where bodies have been dumped in. A lot of these were discovered by Crossrail over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And this looks quite different. It comes between there's two big periods of bubonic plague in Britain. One is the 14th century, the Black Death, as everyone will know, which then becomes endemic for the next sort of 300 years. There's an earlier one which people are less aware of between about 550 and 750.
Okay.
It's called the early medieval pandemic, and that's bubonic plague.
But not
as
the
well.
12th century. Not the 12th century.
No, exactly. Now, of course, bubonic plague could have been around. We can't be entirely sure. Where we've had where a lot of these cemeteries have popped up and they've been studied, you're in the medieval. There's some work was done at Cambridge, and that shows how in sort of endemic diseases were lots of vitamin D deficiency, lots of tuberculosis, cancers. All these can be identified now using DNA analysis. But they haven't done any of that DNA analysis yet on these bodies. I mean, if I was going to have a guess, the excavators...
Oh, no. He isn't stuck, has he? Come on, we're just about to get the guess. We've got to get him back. Get him back right now. So, yeah, this is 123 men, women and children, as I was trying to explain. If you're watching on YouTube, this is easier to explain, but imagine, so it's as if, the feet of one person is on the head of the next person, going down and down and down. 123 men, women and children, and Ashley was about to have a guess as to what's going on here, but essentially, it's a mystery. Now, just at the opposite moment, Ashley, you were going to have a guess. Have that guess, for God's sake.
So, I mean, there are lots of things happening in Leicester around 1100, which is the date that carbon dating suggests. There is a series of rebellions by the local French Norman aristocrat, a guy called Hugh de Grandmesnil, and his son. They're involved in a couple of rebellions, and that does lead to, against the kings at the time, William Rufus, the famous king who gets shot in the New Forest, and then his brother Henry I, who famously dies by eating all those eels. There is some rebellions. These get put down quite brutally. Warfare is pretty brutal in the 12th century. You can see an explanation where the city gets attacked, food supplies get cut off, and large numbers of people die, or perhaps of starvation. That's
a very possible, plausible explanation. But what about you know, the idea that they're sort of vertically stacked on this sort of shaft.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
I mean, what is that all about? Do you think there's something religious about it? Or?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, isn't it, is that it's the way that the burials have been done with care and attention. This isn't like a random act.
Yeah.
The speculation is that because they have no clothing on them, which implies that they were put in a shroud, that implies that families have been able to care for them, and some form of local authority has supervised this deposit in 3 sort of loads. So it does appear quite organised. So you're not looking at like social breakdown, sort of chaos, bodies in the streets, all piling them up in one part of the other.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have lots of accounts at the time of starvation, of problems with bad weather, sort of famines, all sorts of things which could lead to large numbers of deaths. But trying to match that onto the events is always a bit hard. Medieval chroniclers are often writing to sort of make commentary on the rulers at the time. So they often say, well, these bad things are happening. And what they're trying to tell you is they don't particularly like the kings who are in charge. It's safer to criticize them by saying the whole country's going to hell in a handcart than it is to make direct attacks on these people who you didn't really want to fall out with. So it's a real mystery. Let's just hope the Francis Crick Institute are going to do a DNA analysis. We'll see if there's a pathogen involved. We'll see if it's a disease. If not, it's just going to be one of those interesting mysteries, which hopefully we'll come back to.
Yeah, sorry to keep coming back to this, but all very plausible. But if it's a pathogen, if it's a disease, again, why vertically? Anyway,
yeah, and this seems to be a practice. Who knows? A fascinating study, and hopefully we'll learn more about the world in the 12th century.
Ashley, stay on the case. Keep in touch with that investigation, and when you find out, let us know, and we'll get you back on. Fascinating mystery. Always great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Historian and author Ashley Hern. Love stories like that, but I want to find out what really happened. I bet you Ashley will find out, so we'll stay on the case.